لا طيب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I've been Muslim now for going on 12 years. I was brought up in a very serious Christian background, where we went to church a lot, and we was always involved and surrounded by Christianity and such like this. Because of this, I had a strong faith inside of myself, where I knew and I really believed that there was a God. And when I became of age to have understanding, I became very confused about how is it that God is three in one. And I started to ask a lot of questions, and I would always be told to just be quiet and to just listen and to just believe. But something inside me wouldn't allow me to just be quiet. I would just continue to ask. And I can remember at about 14 getting into an argument with one of my friends because she was trying to explain to me about how God is three in one, and she used the egg concept about the yolk, the shell, and the white. It still didn't make sense. Went through a lot of things in my life. At an early age, I became a gangbanger. So I was out doing gangbanger things, just clowning. As a female, I was out in the streets of LA doing the things that gangbangers do. I was, at around 17 was the age that I started having an awareness that there was other religions. I had a cousin who was a drug dealer and a gangbanger as well, and he ended up getting shot and killed 3 houses down from his own home. And I ended up going to live with his mother to Los Angeles, California. I ended up going to live with his mother, which is like my aunt, for a while. So I ended up going back to church because I started having some fear inside my soul that, I can get towed up and out in them streets. So I started going back to church, and of course the same confusion came from me trying to understand about how God is three in one. And yes, I graduated high school, and then I started going to college. I ended up taking a journalism class, and in the journalism class we had to have a partner, so if we were not there we can get the information. Okay, so the person that I ended up having to be my study partner ended up being a Muslim. I knew that there was a different types of Muslim, but the only other type of Muslims that I knew about was the Muslims that was the Nation of Islam, or what I understood to be Orthodox Muslims. So I asked him, well, what kind of Muslim are you? So his first response was like, oh wow, that's a trip that that there's other than one type of Muslim. So I explained to him that I understood that there was the Nation of Islam and Orthodox Muslim. So he told me that he was Orthodox Muslim. So at that time, I'm telling you 2 different things. I'm going to bring you to a head up. So I was living with my cousin, my older cousin. My younger cousin had just got killed. I had started going back to church. I started college. I met a Muslim. Okay. I'm still going to church, and I'm still having confusion. Meanwhile, I'm really serious in the church. I'm up there giving talks. I'm preaching and this type of stuff, and they and then I started learning about Islam, and so I started asking a lot of questions. I started asking a lot of questions to the Muslim about Islam. So the thing that caught me was that he actually had an answer that made sense. And if he didn't know, he would just say, I don't know. Or he would say, I'll ask and I'll get back at you. And when he would ask, he always had a proof as to what he said, and the proof made sense. Whereas when I would go back to church, meanwhile I'm still going to church. Yep, still banging and going to church. going back to church, and I'm asking this preacher these questions, and he's saying stuff like, yeah, God told him to meet him at the beach that morning to, because he wanted to have a conversation with him because he about to open up a new church. They begging for money, all these things, and I'm like, why is it that you special and you the only one that can talk to God and I can't? Why I gotta come to you and then pray to Jesus and then I'm hoping that Jesus could give my prayer to God. Why I can't just pray to God? And they never had an answer to that. It was always because Jesus died for my sins and he went to hell and took the keys from Satan and all of these things that they say. It was just crazy. So it was confusing. So it was kind of a peace inside of myself to be able to talk to somebody that has some intelligent, intellectual answers to my questions that made sense. And it was simple. So I started asking more questions. He took me to, it was this place in LA called the Golden Needle. It was a fabric store that was owned by Muslims. And I still wasn't Muslim yet. So I went to there and I started asking him, like, so I asked, how many gods do you believe in? So they was like, oh, we only believe in one. We only believe there's only one God. I was like, well, who do you pray to? It was like, the one God that created everything. I was like, oh, well, what about Jesus? So he's like, oh, we believe in Jesus. I was like, oh, well, how you believe in Jesus and you believe in God? He said, well, we just believe that he's a prophet. So that caught my ear that it would be a man that God sent to teach the people, but not to follow him in the sense that he was God. So I went back to school and I went back to church. Okay, so I started like taking some of the principles of Islam and like learning them. I went to the library at the school and checked out every Islamic book I could find. And I looked up in the dictionary about Islam, and so I came across a word that said Muhammaddan. So I was like, Muhammaddan? What's a Muhammaddan? So it threw me off for a minute because I was like, well, I don't want to be following after no man again like how they follow after Jesus. So I asked the brother again, well, why they say it's a Muhammaddan? What's a Muhammaddan? So he just simply was like, well, that's just an English translation of them saying a person that follows Muhammad. I was like, oh, okay. So then that's how he started explaining to me about following the example and the teachings and the understandings of Muhammad and not to worship him or, in that way. So I stopped praying and saying in Jesus' name. So I started just praying to God. So I made this prayer. I'm in the middle of this whole study learning thing, and I'm just looking for something really, because I didn't want to go back and start gangbanging again. I didn't want to go back start selling drugs again. I didn't want to go back fighting. I didn't want to go back doing all those things. I wanted to have some peace in my heart, and I knew there was a God, and I knew that God was the only one that could save me. I've been in many situations where I could have been dead already, but God saved me because I called on him. This is before a Muslim. I had guns put in my head, these things, and I called out, oh God, if you save me, then I'll give you my life. And I remembered those things that I called out on, and that he saved me. So I didn't give him my life at that time. I continued to do what I was doing. But then the thing that hit me was how fast your life could be taken, and then you won't have that chance to give him your life and to do what you need to do. And that hit me when my cousin was murdered. So I called the preacher over to my house to sit down and explain to him. Oh, no, back up. Okay, so I'm studying, and I was going to church, so I was telling them about Islam, but without saying Allah and Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, and they was like, yeah, that's right. I started covering my head, wearing scarves. So my mom was like, what's going on with you? Why are you wearing these scarves? I was like, oh, just African thing. I'm hiding books in the house. Yeah, this is before I became Muslim. I started covering my head, but it was wrapped up like African style wrap, or just tie on I started wearing long sleeve shirts, long skirts, started something like turban style, but just however I wanted to wrap it on there to kind of style it still, because I was still hiding. And I really hadn't took my shahada, but I started to take on the characteristics because the characteristics was beautiful to me. So I went to church with my scarf on this one night, but I had pinned it down, but behind my head, so where it could fall down. Before it was always wrapped up. And I remember giving this talk, and I used some verse out the Bible, but my point was to tell them that it's only one God and that you should only practice worshiping one God. And I told to myself that was the last time I was going to go back to that church again, because I knew that it wasn't right. So I called the preachers to my house like that next weekend. No. I'm hiding books in the house. I'm going to church. I'm wearing scarves. So my mom is really like, "What are you doing?" So I just told her, "Oh, I'm just wearing scarves. I'm just doing this." So she found the books. She found my Islamic books, and she went crazy. She cursed me, yelled at me, "You a pagan, this is paganism, you going to hell, you crazy, you can't do this," and I was like, "No, Mom, this is the truth, you need to read this, this what they telling you is wrong, I was like, "Tell me you're not confused when they be telling you God is 3 in 1 and you got to pray to Jesus to get to God and all this." So I just gave her a Quran and I told her to read it. And so my mom was calling me pagan because she had found the Islamic books that I was hiding, that I was reading because I was learning about Islam. And I knew that she wouldn't be pleased with that because she was like a staunch Christian, a real Christian. So she found the books, she cursed me out, I was a pagan, I'm going to hell, you got to stop this, you're going to have to get out of my house, all of this stuff she telling me. So I just gave her the Quran and I was like, "Just read it. If that's how you feel, fine, but read it first." She was like, "Okay." So she said, "Well, what are you doing?" So I said, "Okay, well, they have this class that I was told that they have about, and I want to go." And no, ironically, no, they didn't kick me out for gangbanging, but they would kick you out for changing gods as they would look at it. So, yeah, because that's far more worse than gangbanging, changing gods, as far as they understand. So, I started reading more. So I was in the back of my English class at Southwest College, and I had this book. It was a book called Introduction to Islam, and it had a lot of different things about what was the pillars of Islam, what did you need to believe in, and I was going down the list like, you need to believe in one God. I was like, okay, I could do that. Or you need to believe in the prophet and his message. Okay, I could do that. Okay, you need to pray 5 times. Okay, I could do that. Okay, you need to fast. Okay, I could do that. Okay, you need to make your hajj. Okay, I could do that, And then, so all of these things that I started reading, they started like making so much sense to me. So what happened was, I ended up going to this class and sitting down and listening, and I still hadn't converted, and I'm still covering my head and all of these things. And in the class, they were going over basic principles of Islam and, these things. And it made my heart, like, when it was time for them to make prayer and I heard them say the adhan, all I knew was that it was such a peaceful thing that came over me. Like, I had so much turmoil inside. But when I heard the adhan, the call to prayer, and I had no clue of what they were saying. I didn't know nothing about Arabic. I'm thinking they just singing some song, but the song was peaceful to me. So then I seen everybody start lining up. And I started seeing everybody standing up to pray. And I watched them pray. And the unison and the reverence and the respect in which they prayed to their God grabbed a hold of my attention. And that's how I was, because I wasn't Muslim. So to me, it was like, how they praying to their God. Look how much attention they giving to praying to their God. So, it still took me some time. I started like hanging back out again and going back out, kicking it again, And this situation happened to me, and it ran me back away. So the situation was, I was out kicking it one night with a couple of my non-Muslim friends, and we went out to go kick it. And sometimes, you say stuff. Well, I'm going to tell you how it happened. This voice told me, like, okay, you don't miss this last bus that was coming. I had felt like this real strong feeling. Don't miss this last bus. So I was like, okay, we should leave. Let's get ready to go. So it's like, no, we got to ride. So I was like, all right, cool. So the ride ended up flaking out on us. So we go stand at the bus stop, and we waiting for the bus. So this other gangbangers, okay, I was a Crip. So some Bloods came and held us up, basically. Put this gun to my head and was robbing us. Our jewelry, our money, everything we had, bam, just robbing. And so I was like, oh man, again. So I started praying. I was like, okay, God, if you get me out of this, I'm really going to be right, please just, get me out of this. And if you don't and I die, then I accept whatever you have for me, being that I didn't do what I was supposed to do and I lived my life in vain. At the point that I finished that part of that prayer and I said amen to myself, some police sirens came on. And these dudes gave us to the count of 10 to get across the street. So I just started running. All I knew was I'm about to get a bullet in my back, you know, but I'm running and I'm praying while I'm running. And my friends was running too. We running. And we run into this Mexican bakery and they kicked us out. They was like, get out of here, get out of here. So we got out. We ran out of there. We just kept running. So anyway, we got away. So that was enough for me. I was like, all right, I can't do this again because I already done told God enough times already, you know, I'm gonna do right. And then, you know, I didn't do it. So I found my way back to the person that I knew that had kind of gave me information about Islam. And it was this one night I was by myself in my room, and I had I wasn't sure on the correct pronunciation of the words, but I knew, and I also knew that I was supposed to have a witness. But I was by myself in my room late at night, and I knew that I had to do this, or maybe I wasn't going to wake up, or I wasn't going to live no more, or if I was going to live, it wasn't going to be right. I was going to be back out there, and I was going to be dead. I opened up the book, the Introduction to Islam. It was a little skinny book, and it had all these different little pictures and these different little things in there. And mashallah, I just said, well, Allah, you're going to have to be my witness tonight because I can't wait no more on being a Muslim. So I opened up the book, you know, and I said those words, but I didn't say them right. I said, La ilaha illallah. So I said, and I felt good, but I still didn't feel quite complete. So then the person that I was talking to about Islam gave me address to this masjid that was in LA. So I was supposed to be able to get a right there. Ride didn't work out. So I'm waiting again till next year. So there's another wait. So I'm like, man, maybe this is not supposed to be for me. So then the next Friday, so this 3 weekend. So the next Friday, it comes, and I go and I make it to the masjid. I ended up actually walking all the way there it's a nice distance, should I just say. So I make it to the masjid, and it happens to be in Ramadan this year. It was in 1997. So I make it to the masjid. It's Ramadan, and the welcoming was just out of this world. And there came a point, so I just sat there and watched everybody. You know, I was quiet, you know, because I was new. I was kind of shy, you know. I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know how to pray, you know, none of that. So there came a point at the end of the night, after the last prayer, and after everyone had eaten, where they said, you know, that if anyone wanted to take their shahada or something of this nature, but someone had told them that I wanted to. So they said my name, and I was shocked, like, how do they know my name? You know why they said my name? So I went up there, and they repeated the words, and I repeated the words, La ilaha illallah muhammaddan rasulullah, and that was almost 12 years ago now. And I just thank Allah that Allah picked me and guided me from out of that world of gangbanging, drug violence, fighting, shooting, all of these crazy things that happens out there as a woman too, which is even more crazier. And that Allah guided me to this deen of Islam, which is true and perfect and whole. And I pray that Allah never let me leave it, and that Allah always keep it in my heart and keep me on the straight path. Ameen, ameen. Yes, I would have been dead. But alhamdulillah. And my ended up actually becoming Muslim. She took the Quran that I gave her and sat and compared it to the Bible. And at the end of the day, she was like, well, this is the truth and that's not, and I have to be Muslim. And like a month after I became Muslim, she became Muslim. And mashallah, she died as a Muslim, mashallah, you know. So, you know, mashallah, Allah guided me and my ummi. And I can make dua for her. So anybody that have a parent, a brother, a sister, even one of my brothers became Muslim, mashallah. So don't be scared, you know, just be an example and make dua for real. Please make dua for her, mashallah, ameen, 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 thank you. And you know, just be an example and don't be scared to tell them the truth and to show them what Islam is and to call them to it and be patient with them, because Allah is the one that makes the Muslims, and Allah is the one that really hear your dua. And you really have to believe when you ask Allah for something, because I really asked Allah for my ummi to be Muslim, and she was. So I make dua for your dad, inshallah. that he be Muslim. I mean, or at least I wish my dad would take Shahada. Smooth name. So, mashallah. So that's my story in brief. Mashallah, and I'm gonna give it back to the husband. Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you all. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Why yes?
Man, I gotta take the mic. She trying to outdo my story. Good grief. Allah.muhamaddan. Gotta take the mic. Y'all trying to do me, night? You see that? Allah.muhamaddan. Okay. That was Sajda. Ikhwan wa akhwat. Barakallahu feekum. That was my first wife that I married 6 years ago. Alhamdulillah. You can hear all the Philly going. Allahu Akbar. So now I'm trying to get Fatima to come in here and give her story. Wifey number 2. Inshallah. She's very, very, very shy though. I don't think she's going to do it. I'm trying. I'm working. Fatima! تعالي بسرعة الآن. طيب ما شاء الله. You gonna share your come on طيب هذا نصيرة تفضل اجلس. She's too shy, mashallah. Okay. Okay, she won't do it. I tried, y'all. Nah. Okay, the USA, the United States of America. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh wa maghfiratuh. طيب. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll just pass the mic now. طيب. Barakallahu feekum ikram wa akhwat. طيب.